David and his mother had just moved to Maine from California. They were ready to start a fresh new life, miles away from the drama they had left behind. David's mom had just landed a job at a hospital. She worked night shifts, so David was often alone at home, left to his own devices. But that didn't bother him one bit, seeing as how he had always been pretty independent. As a child, it was apparent how self-sufficient David could be. He was very capable of doing things on his own, hardly ever asked for help, hardly showed any signs of frustration, fear, or helplessness. Tonight, David was interested in exploring more of the area. He had biked around the neighborhood a bit, but this time he wanted to make it to the edge of town and make his way back. He had noticed a few trails cutting through a wooded area nearby and figured he'd take one of those routes as it would be more scenic. 25 minutes into the ride, there was still no clearing in sight. David continued on, realizing he had underestimated the time it would take to reach the other side of town. Suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, David saw a large, dark figure. His mother had warned him about bear sightings in the area. Though he wasn't sure if it was in fact a bear, David wasn't going to take any chances. He worked the bike pedals like he never had before, hoping to get as far away as possible from whatever it was. The terrain at this point was pretty uneven, and there were lots of rocks in the path. David didn't see a large rock in his way, and as the front tire made contact, it flung David into the air. "Oh God, my knee!" said David as he struggled to sit up. "Are you okay, my dear?" said a voice. David turned around to find a frail old lady standing there. "That was a pretty bad fall. Here, come with me, my cabin isn't too far from here. We can get you cleaned up and then get a hold of your parents." The woman looked a bit odd. Her hair was long and frazzled, her clothes were a drab color and looked worn, but soon there would be no sunlight, so David agreed to go with the lady. As they entered through the front door of the cabin, the old lady turned to David and said, "You mustn't make too much noise or you'll wake the children." The old lady was very serious about her request. As she tended to David's wounds, any time he groaned was met with, "Quiet, you mustn't disturb the children." When he slurped the soup the lady offered him, he was quickly shushed. David was growing tired of this nonsense and was ready to leave. "Hey, do you have a phone I can use?" asked David. "Why, we're only just beginning to know each other. Why don't you stay a bit longer? I just baked some banana bread earlier today. Wouldn't you like a slice?" David really didn't want to be there, but he figured the lady must be lonely, so he agreed to stay until he finished his banana bread. As he took a few bites, David began to feel strange. He could feel his body growing heavier, his eyes fighting to stay open. Suddenly, all went black. David opened his eyes to find himself strapped to what looked like a surgical table. What's going on?" A bright light shined above, making it hard to view his surroundings. "Don't worry, I'm about to inject you with something that'll make this less painful," said the old lady's voice as she emerged into the light. "No! What are you talking about? Help! Help! I'm going to keep screaming until your kids hear me." The old lady chuckled as she pulled out a scalpel. "Oh, but they're already here to watch Mommy do her work." She pointed the light to one side of the room. David's eyes widened as his gaze fell upon 3 children sitting in chairs. Except they weren't children. They weren't even alive. They were the skins of children stuffed with what looked like cotton balls. It suddenly occurred to David what his fate would be. "I've always wanted a son," said the old lady as she pressed the scalpel against his skin.
So the story I'm about to tell you is about my friend. It was really, really dark. She ended up staying at work really late that night. She forgot her bags upstairs in her office, so as she was heading down, she had to turn around and go back up. When she came back downstairs, she ran to her car because it was so dark. She was nervous. When she got in her car and started it, there was another vehicle in the parking lot as well. This is an employer that works on the 3rd level of the building that she works on. And he's waving his hands in the window, and she's not paying him any attention. So they both drive and get on the road. He's following her. At this point, she's nervous because she doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know who he is. They get to a stop sign. She rolls past the stop sign. She does not do a complete stop because the car is behind her. So she decides to take a left. Even though this isn't the correct way home, she still did it anyway. She made that left. He made that left too. When she got to the next corner, she did a U-turn. He did one too. She just kept going straight, as long as she could. And right behind her, he was doing the same exact thing. He would honk his horn, and she just kept speeding and speeding. She could have called the police, but her phone was dead. She has no idea who he is or what he wants from her. So she just keeps detouring, hoping she can lose him in the midst of all these lefts and rights and U-turns and circles. But she has not. They get to a red light where there's cameras. So she stops. And he jumps out the car and says, "I've been trying to get your attention this whole time. Somebody's in your back seat." She screamed. And she screamed because she thought the person following after her wanted her, when all along he was trying to warn her that somebody was in her car.
Yesterday, upon the stair, I met a man who wasn't there. He wasn't there again today. I wish he'd go away. When I came home last night at 3, the man was waiting there for me. But when I looked around the hall, I couldn't see him there at all. Go away. Go away. Don't you come back anymore. Go away. Go away, and please don't slam the door. Last night, I saw upon the stair a little man who wasn't there. He wasn't there again today. Oh, I wish he'd go away. The moon will shine for God knows how long, as if it still matters, as if someone is trying to recall a dream. Believe the brain is a cage of light and rage. When it shuts off, something else switches on. There's no better reason than now to lock the doors, the windows, turn off the sprinklers and porch light, save the books for fire. In darkness, we learn to read what moves along the horizon across the periphery of a gun scope. The flicker of shadows, the rustling of trash in the body of cities long emptied. Not a soul lives in this house, in this house, in this house. Go on, stiffen the heart, quicken the blood. To live in a world of flesh and teeth, you must learn to kill what you love and love what can die. Don't you ever laugh as a hearse goes by, for you may be the next to die. They wrap you up in a big white sheet from your head down to your feet. They put you in a big black box and cover you up with dirt and rocks. All goes well about a week, then your coffin begins to leak. The worms crawl in, the worms crawl out. The worms play Pinocchio on your snout. They eat your eyes, they eat your nose, they eat the jelly between your toes. A big green worm with rolling eyes crawls in your stomach and out your eyes. Your stomach turns a slimy green, pus pours out like whipping cream. You spread it on a slice of bread, and that's what you eat when you are dead.